Well, the clock is ticking for 7 western states. We're talking Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. They all have until today to come up with a plan to significantly reduce their water use from the Colorado River, or the federal government will impose its own harsh cuts.
Yeah, and we know that river supplies water to 40 million people. But that 23-year-long megadrought fueled by climate change and rapid growth in the West has drained the river and its reservoirs to record lows. Now, water is a very hot commodity.
Oh, boy, is it ever. Today, in partnership with the CBS News Investigations team, correspondent Ben Tracy joins us to explain how Wall Street, believe it or not, now sees dollar signs in the drought. Ben.
Well, Stephanie and Jordan, the Colorado River is one of the most valuable economic resources in the country, and this river system is in crisis. And now private investors are betting that a hotter and drier future means that water is the new oil. Joe Bernal's family has lived on the western slope of the Rockies for nearly 100 years.
Come on back.
He raises cattle and grows crops on more than 500 acres of land near Grand Junction, Colorado. Your main source of water is the Colorado?
Our only source of water is the Colorado.
So that river is your lifeline. That's it.
That's all we got is that river.
And that river is why someone new bought the land just down the road from his ranch.
Water Asset Management owns that property.
And when you first heard of them, what was your reaction?
Surprise and concern. They are concerning because they're large.
Water Asset Management is a Wall Street investment firm with offices inside this building in New York City. CBS News has learned that in the past 5 years, the company has bought at least $20 million worth of land in western Colorado. Investors in a Manhattan-based firm are now one of the largest landowners in the Grand Valley. I assume they wouldn't be here if they didn't think there was a lot of money to be made.
I think that's a logical assumption.
Does that worry you?
Of course it worries us.
What do investors in New York want with land here in Colorado?
I don't think they want much with the land. It's the water, right?
Andy Mueller is general manager of the Colorado River District, created by the state to protect its share of Colorado River water.
Water in Colorado, water in the West is your future. Without water, you have no future.
Mueller says Water Asset Management has acquired at least 2,500 acres of land for the water rights that come with it. He calls them speculators, betting that as the West gets drier, those with water rights will get richer.
These are folks that have identified the drought as an opportunity to make money. I view these private drought profiteers as vultures.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah, they're looking to make a lot of money off this public resource.
It's a $1 trillion market opportunity.
Matt DeZario is president and co-founder of Water Asset Management. He declined our repeated requests for an interview.
We basically acquire very specific water rights.
But in an interview 3 years ago with FinTech, DeZario explicitly said that one of his firm's strategies is to profit from water, in part by making the farms it buys more efficient, and then selling parts of its water rights to other farmers and cities increasingly desperate for this essential resource.
When you need water, water's the only thing that will do.
Water Asset Management even hired Colorado's former top water official, James Eklund, as a lawyer. And the company's website states that scarce clean water is the resource defining this century, much like plentiful oil defined the last. So why is water now so scarce in the West? Well, Dr. Greg Postel with our partners at the Weather Channel is here to explain.
Well, the Colorado River relies mainly on the snowpack from the Rocky Mountains that feeds into the river as it melts during the spring and summer. But climate change is making the West hotter. And for every degree increase in temperature we see, that corresponds to about a 5% reduction in the river flow. So over the last century, we've seen roughly a 20% reduction overall.
And then on top of that, you have this 23-year-long mega drought in the West, the worst in 1,200 years. And there's also overuse of this river by a lot of western states.
Yeah, that's right. And it's taken a toll on the nation's largest reservoirs. Lake Mead in Nevada and Lake Powell in Arizona, they're at about 25% of their combined full capacity. And there are real fears that this crucial water supply for the West is on the brink of disaster.
And that is a problem for people all over the West, including ranchers high in the Colorado Rockies.
All right, who wins this one?
Rancher Carrie Donovan is a former Colorado state senator. She's alarmed by the amount of land being bought by investors for water rights.
Scarcity does equal value, right?
She tried to make Colorado's anti-speculation laws stronger, but that effort failed.
Colorado has pretty strong laws on this. You can't move water out of state. You have to use it for a beneficial use. So how do they make money on this?
They'll probably make money because the state will be forced to create a system that doesn't exist right now to allow more flexibility in how a water right is used.
So these private investors may not be buying this under the rules that exist today, but this might be a long-term play.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. In fact, if you look at their website, they even present it as such.
As the arid West gets more desperate, the federal government is expected to make sure the taps keep flowing in cities including Denver, Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Los Angeles. Congress recently allocated $4 billion in drought funding that can be used to pay farmers to fallow their land and not use their water. Some western states, including Colorado, are also considering payment plans.
And those dollars get pretty big pretty fast.
And if you're sitting on water rights, that's just free money.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to benefit most from a fallowing concept? An investment firm that's not too concerned if the ground that they own is farmed or ranched.
So whose land is this?
Water asset management.
And now this rancher's future is tied to Wall Street. Some of the land Joe Bernal now farms is leased to him by Water Asset Management.
So what kind of landlord have they been?
So far, so good.
But he says ranchers here in the Grand Valley are keeping an eye on their new neighbors from New York.
Good stewards of the land and stewards of the water rights will have their eyes open and will be watching for what may be coming.
You know, Ben, with all the rain and the snow that we saw earlier this month in the West, has that changed anything for the ranchers?
Well, it has been a good winter out here so far when it comes to precipitation, both rain and snow. The snowpack in the mountains, both in California and in the Colorado River Basin, is well above normal, so that's certainly encouraging, and that has alleviated some of the short-term drought we're seeing here in the West. But when we're talking about this problem with the Colorado River system, this is really a long-term issue. This is about the long-term aridification of the western U.S. As it gets hotter and drier, the snow and the rain that does fall, less and less of it is reaching those crucial reservoirs. So this is a problem that will have to be addressed over time, especially as climate change makes things worse here in the West.
And Ben, I just have one more quick question for you. I'm assuming in order for these firms to get the water rights, someone has to sell. So is there a sense from the community you talk to, the ranchers and the farmers, like, hey, we're going to hold a bond together and not sell our land to this big, firm coming from New York?
It's a good question. I think there's real mixed feelings about it. Some folks don't like the idea that these private investment firms are moving in, but a lot of the folks we talk to, they say they understand, when it comes time to sell your family farm, that's kind of your 401k when you're a farmer. That's the money you need to basically fund your retirement or pass along to your family. So it's a real struggle for some of these folks. If someone shows up and writes a big check, you're inclined to sell.
Sure. Well, we thank you for your time and for your reporting. That was a really good story. CBS News correspondent Ben Tracy. Again, thank you so much. Eye-opening for so many of us.